Okay, today I'm going to be listening to some Silvestre Revueltas. This is exciting episode because it's our first Revueltas episode, and I do like his music. I haven't listened to it in a long time. This is like perhaps one of his largest like late orchestra pieces, Redes. It's actually a film score for a film of the same title, and I think it was pretty well praised by Aaron Copland, if that interests you. The instrumentation on this thing is double winds and then 4-3-2-1 for the brass, so it's pretty typical. Then we got one timpanist and only 3 percussion instruments. I'm guessing that they can all be done by one percussionist, but it's unclear from the page here. And strings, of course. It's like a 15-minute piece altogether. And yeah, you can tell from the first page that it already looks fun to conduct. It's broken up into these episodes, which I think are scenes from the film. Yeah, I think I'm just missing some titles. So, part 1 actually is 3 sections: the fisherman, the child's funeral, setting out to fish. And then part 2 has 2 sections: the fight, and then the return of the fishermen with their dead friend. I guess it's not placed at the top of the score clearly or something. Since I'm here, I might as well just start talking about the history of the piece a bit more. So it's film score for a 1936 film by Fred Zinnemann, and he begun composing it in 1934. And yeah, premiered in 1936. So I think I have like a publishing date on this thing of like 1970 something. Yeah, so this score was published in 1971, but it's quite an old piece. There's also an arrangement by Eric Kleiber. Let me see if I'm looking at that one. Yeah, I think I'm just looking at the Revueltas arrangement. This is an Austrian conductor who died in the 50s. Okay, Aaron Copland's comment on this piece. Okay, so Aaron Copland's comment on this piece. This is a response to a New York premiere of it, I'm assuming. So, above all, vibrant and colorful, many qualities characteristic of Revueltas' art. The need for musical accompaniments by serious composers is gradually becoming evident even to Hollywood. The Mexican government choosing Revueltas to supply the music for Redes is very much like the USSR asking Shostakovich to supply sound for its best pictures. So that's sort of the high esteem that this is held in. And as for the composer himself, Revueltas died in 1940, so he was quite old when he composed this, born in 1899. So I guess he lived a short life, but he was close to the end of his life when he composed it. And he was born in Durango in Santiago Pacasquiaro, studying at the National Conservatory in Mexico City, St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas, and the Chicago College of Music. And he was also a violinist, assistant conductor for the National Symphony Orchestra of Mexico, invited by Carlos Chavez. He held that post until 1935. And yeah, so he's one of the big names that was really promoting contemporary classical Mexican music in the first half of the 20th century. And you can see that his works list is very, as you can imagine, like conservative in its instrumentation. This is a, older composer. String quartets, pieces for violin and piano, some chamber ensemble stuff, chamber orchestra, film scores, ballets, and piano pieces. In my opinion, Revueltas is a much more interesting composer than Chavez. Chavez's music is a little bit like uncreative, I think. But Revueltas, you get some very interesting orchestration, and as Copland pointed out, like very just colorful writing for orchestra. So I'm excited to revisit this, and hopefully I'll have something intelligent to say about it after we listen to it. So this might not be the full movie because it's just under an hour, but there is a significant portion of the movie posted online with English subtitles. I'll put a link to that in the description, along with the performance that we're listening to of the concert work. And yeah, you can see that Silvestre Revueltas was such a, he's in the main credits because he was such a big name at the time and such a huge figure in Mexican music. So he was definitely, I imagine he was paid very handsomely to do this, kind of like a commission. Okay, I think Aaron Copland was taking some notes from this piece because, yeah, it's an incredibly original sound, which definitely influenced Copland's later tonal period. And I think his comment about like comparing Revueltas to Shostakovich and the Mexican government at the time to the Soviet Union, I think it's an interesting like political statement because Copland was a leftist, and in the 30s, I think like a lot of leftist thinkers still really, like people believed in communism a lot more. And yeah, it's just an interesting like piece of history, I think, for one thing. And then the orchestration on top of that. I mean, the orchestration is really great in this piece. I love the use of strings to create these ostinati and like repetitive pads. The use of brass is like textbook brass. It's super cool. Even on this first page, you see a lot of interesting things like super high trombones. And the tuba in the first half had like some really important lines and was like sort of a featured voice of the ensemble. It gets Revueltas manages to get some really huge sounds out of the ensemble just with double winds, and I think it's a nice little reminder that you don't need a large orchestra to have a huge sound. So yeah, it just shows his sort of skill as a conductor, and it's a very imaginative little piece which has a nice sort of narrative that you can follow. I would be personally way more stoked to see a local orchestra play this than like Schumann or even Shostakovich, because this stuff just doesn't get performed. Yeah, hopefully you found this piece interesting. It's a little bit different than most of the scores I look at, but we're getting further back in time, so we're going to see more and more of these post-tonal and tonal pieces, and the history of these pieces and the political climate they were written in is going to become more and more foreign and strange, and hopefully you're finding that as interesting as I am. The next piece that we're going to be looking at, we're going to look at another Earl Brown piece called Module 3. And this one actually is from the 60s. I'm not going to make the same mistake. So, yeah, I think, what's the next Revueltas we'll look at? We're also going to look at Senza Maya and another piece by him called Genizio, eventually. And another orchestra piece called Homage to Federico Garcia Lorca. I think that'll be all of them.